In 1987, Italy celebrated a historic milestone. For the first time, the country's GDP per capita surpassed that of the United Kingdom, leading Italian newspapers to proudly declare Il Sorpasso, the overtaking. Italy had transformed from a struggling post-war economy into a manufacturing powerhouse. Made in Italy became a mark of quality, craftsmanship, and style worldwide. Fast forward to 2025, and the picture couldn't be more different. Italy's economy is now 25% smaller than the UK's. Since adopting the euro in 1999, Italy's economy has grown by a mere 7.2% in total. Not annually, but over the entire period. For comparison, Germany grew by 30.2%, France by 24.4%, and Spain by 30.8% in the same time frame. This isn't just a temporary downturn, it's a chronic condition of stagnation spanning over 2 decades. The human cost is staggering. Youth unemployment hovers at 24%. Over 1 million young Italians have left the country since 2010 in search of better opportunities abroad. The once robust Italian middle class is shrinking. How did a country once lauded for its economic miracle fall into such prolonged stagnation? The answer lies in a perfect storm of structural failures: crushing bureaucracy, political instability, an aging population, and a failure to adapt to technological change. If you want to understand how a developed economy can stagnate for decades and the warning signs other countries should heed, subscribe to Capital Cartography for more deep dives into the economies reshaping our world. Italy, the eternal economic stagnation. To understand Italy's current economic predicament, we need to go back to the post-World War II era. From the ruins of war emerged what the world would come to know as the Italian economic miracle. Between 1950 and 1973, Italy's economy grew at an astonishing average rate of 5.8% per year, one of the highest growth rates in the world. This was a period of remarkable transformation. Companies like Fiat, Olivetti, and Pirelli became global champions. The Made in Italy label gained prestige in fashion, furniture, and food. By the 1980s, Italy had established itself as one of the world's leading economies, joining the exclusive G7 club. But by the early 1990s, the miracle was fading. Italy faced a major currency crisis in 1992 and was forced to exit the European exchange rate mechanism. The government devalued the lira by 30%, providing temporary relief for exporters but signaling deeper structural problems. Then came the watershed moment, joining the Eurozone in 1999. Without the ability to devalue its currency to boost competitiveness, Italy's underlying weaknesses were exposed. Since then, Italy has experienced the worst economic performance of any Eurozone country, with productivity essentially flat for over 25 years. If there's one thing that unites Italians from the Alpine North to the Mediterranean South, it's their frustration with la burocrazia, the bureaucracy. Italy's notorious red tape isn't just an annoyance, it's an economic straitjacket that strangles growth, innovation, and entrepreneurship. The numbers are staggering. According to the World Bank, Italy ranks 125th in the world for ease of starting a business, behind countries like Cambodia and Zimbabwe. Opening a simple business requires navigating 53 different forms across 16 government portals. The average Italian spends over 14 days each year dealing with bureaucratic procedures, time that could be spent producing, innovating, or simply enjoying life. This bureaucratic maze extends to the justice system. Civil cases take an average of 7 years to resolve, 3 times longer than the European average. This makes contract enforcement uncertain and costly, deterring investment and complicating business relationships. The tax system is equally bewildering. Italy has over 100 different taxes, many with overlapping jurisdictions and contradictory rules. Small businesses spend approximately 30% of their administrative time just complying with tax regulations. What makes this particularly frustrating is that despite, or perhaps because of, all this bureaucracy, tax evasion remains endemic. Italy's shadow economy represents about 19% of GDP, one of the highest rates in Western Europe. Attempts at reform have been numerous but largely ineffective. Successive governments have promised to cut red tape, only to add new layers of complexity. The bureaucracy has become a self-preserving organism, resistant to meaningful change. Have you encountered suffocating bureaucracy that killed your productivity or dreams? Share your story in the comments. We want to hear how red tape affects real people. At the heart of Italy's economic stagnation lies a productivity crisis of historic proportions. Since 1995, Italy's total factor productivity, a measure of economic efficiency, has actually declined by 6.2%. For comparison, during the same period, Germany's increased by 7.9% and the United States by 18.5%. This isn't just an abstract economic indicator. It means Italian workers are producing less value per hour worked than they did 25 years ago. No major economy has experienced such a prolonged productivity slump in modern times. What's behind this productivity collapse? One critical factor is Italy's innovation deficit. Italy invests just 1.4% of its GDP in research and development, well below the EU average of 2.1%, and far behind innovation leaders like Germany, 3.1%. Italian businesses file fewer patents, produce fewer academic publications, and develop fewer new products than their European counterparts. The digital transformation that has revolutionized global economies has largely bypassed Italy. Only 39% of Italian companies have adopted basic digital technologies, compared to 60% in Germany. Internet access speeds lag behind most developed nations, and digital public services remain rudimentary. Italy's industrial structure amplifies these problems. The economy is dominated by small, family-owned businesses. While these firms excel at craftsmanship and specialized manufacturing, they often lack the scale and capital to invest in research or new technologies. The average Italian manufacturing firm has 9 employees, compared to 35 in Germany. The education system compounds the problem. Despite strong primary and secondary education, Italian universities rank poorly in international comparisons. The percentage of Italians with tertiary education is just 20%, compared to the OECD average of 37%. Brain drain further depletes the country's human capital, with tens of thousands of highly educated Italians emigrating each year. Italy is aging, rapidly. With a fertility rate of just 1.3 children per woman, well below the replacement rate of 2.1, and one of the world's highest life expectancies, Italy is experiencing what demographers call a demographic winter. The statistics are alarming. Italy's median age is now 47.9 years, the second highest in the world after Japan. By 2050, over 36% of Italians will be aged 65 or older. The working age population is projected to shrink by 6 million people by 2040. Already, Italy has 1.7 retirees for every young person entering the workforce. This demographic decline creates a vicious economic cycle. Fewer workers mean less production, less innovation, and less tax revenue. Meanwhile, pension and healthcare costs continue to rise, placing an ever heavier burden on the shrinking workforce. Italy already spends 16.8% of its GDP on pensions, the highest in the EU and more than twice what Germany spends. The consequences are visible throughout the country. Drive through rural Italy, and you'll see ghost towns where the youngest residents are in their 60s. Schools are closing due to lack of students. In some villages, mayors have resorted to offering abandoned houses for €1 to attract new residents. Young Italians face a paradox. They're simultaneously too few and yet struggle to find quality employment. Those who do find jobs often face precarious contracts, low wages, and limited career prospects. This economic insecurity further discourages family formation, perpetuating the demographic spiral. Do you think countries should implement strong pro-natalist policies or focus on immigration to solve demographic challenges? Share your thoughts below. Italy's public debt now stands at a staggering 150% of GDP, the second highest ratio in the Eurozone after Greece. This mountain of debt, exceeding €2.7 trillion, casts a long shadow over Italy's economic future. Without the ability to devalue its currency or set its own monetary policy, Italy's only tools for adjustment became internal, primarily fiscal policy and structural reforms. Yet neither has been effectively deployed. Reforms have been incremental at best, while fiscal policy has been constrained by the need to maintain investor confidence. The 2011 European debt crisis marked a pivotal moment, as Italy's borrowing costs soared above 7%, the threshold widely considered unsustainable. Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi was forced to resign. He was replaced by technocrat Mario Monti, who implemented severe austerity measures, tax increases, spending cuts, and pension reforms. These austerity policies succeeded in stabilizing immediate market concerns but pushed Italy into a deep recession. Between 2011 and 2013, Italy's economy contracted by 4.8%. Since then, Italy has been trapped in a bind. It cannot grow without spending, but cannot spend without increasing its already unsustainable debt. Interest payments alone consume around 3.5% of GDP annually, money that could otherwise be invested in infrastructure, education, or innovation. This economic paralysis is compounded by extraordinary political instability. Since World War II, Italy has had 67 governments, an average tenure of just over 1 year per government. This instability has real economic costs. Policy uncertainty discourages investment as businesses cannot reliably predict future tax rates, regulations, or incentives. The Italian political system seems designed for gridlock. Proportional representation leads to fragmented parliaments with numerous small parties. Coalitions are typically fragile, with partners holding contradictory views on key issues. Reform initiatives are frequently abandoned when governments collapse, creating a pattern of incomplete and incoherent policy changes. This political dysfunctionality has fostered a deep cynicism among Italian citizens. Trust in political institutions is among the lowest in Europe. Perhaps most damaging has been the short-termism that political instability encourages. With brief time horizons, governments prioritize quick fixes over long-term structural reforms. Italy stands at a crossroads. The path of continued stagnation leads to growing debt, declining global relevance, and a diminished standard of living. But an alternative path exists, one of renewal and economic renaissance. What would an Italian economic revival require? Let's map out 4 key transformations that could break the cycle of stagnation. First, a radical simplification of the bureaucracy is essential. Italy needs a bureaucratic revolution, not just incremental reforms, but a comprehensive reimagining of the state's relationship with citizens and businesses. This means digitizing public services, creating a single portal for business interactions with government, and streamlining judicial procedures. Estonia, which rebuilt its public administration from scratch after Soviet collapse, offers a model of what's possible. Second, Italy must close its innovation gap. This requires not just increased R&D spending, but a complete innovation ecosystem. Better university-business collaboration, more venture capital, and support for scaling up promising startups. Italian universities need greater autonomy, international faculty recruitment, and deeper connections to industry. Third, addressing the demographic crisis demands both short and long-term measures. In the short term, Italy needs a coherent immigration strategy focused on attracting skilled workers and entrepreneurs. In the long term, comprehensive family support policies, affordable childcare, flexible work arrangements, and housing assistance for young families are essential to increase the birth rate. Fourth, Italy must gradually reduce its debt burden while investing in growth. This delicate balance requires both fiscal discipline and strategic investment. Privatizing state assets, combating tax evasion, and shifting spending from consumption to investment could create fiscal space while supporting growth. The EU Recovery Fund presents a once-in-a-generation opportunity to invest in digital infrastructure, green energy, and education. None of this will be easy. Vested interests will resist change. Political obstacles will emerge. But Italy has overcome greater challenges in its long history. The post-war economic miracle demonstrated Italy's capacity for transformation. The entrepreneurial energy that built global brands from Fiat to Ferrari, from Armani to Ferrero, remains alive in Italy's business culture. Italy's economic revival is not just an Italian concern, but a European and global one. The question is not whether Italy can change, but whether it will choose to. If you've enjoyed this economic deep dive, subscribe to Capital Cartography for more insights into the economies that shape our world. Next week, we'll be exploring how South Korea transformed from one of the world's poorest countries into a technological powerhouse. Until then, arrivederci.